You wake up in the morning, you swing your legs off the bed, and before your feet even hit the floor, you feel it. That heaviness in your chest, like someone laid a sandbag across your ribs while you were sleeping. You take a deep breath, and it doesn't quite fill all the way. You stand up, you shuffle to the bathroom, and by the time you get there, your heart is thumping like you just climbed a flight of stairs. And you think to yourself, well, I'm 70-something. This is just how it is now. But I need you to hear me when I say this. That is not how it has to be. That heaviness, that shortness of breath, that heart that feels like it's working twice as hard to do half the job, your heart is not failing. Your heart is starving. And what it's starving for is something your grandparents drank every single morning without thinking twice about it. Something that came straight from the farm, straight from the barn, straight from the animal, and went into a glass on the kitchen table before the sun was fully up. And for decades, the medical establishment told you to stop drinking it. They told you it was dangerous. They told you it would clog your arteries and kill you. And now, after 60 years of getting it wrong, cardiologists are finally, quietly, reluctantly admitting that this one drink from the 1950s farm kitchen may be one of the most powerful things you can put in your body to protect your heart after 70. I'm Dr. William, and I've spent the better part of my career studying what happens when we strip ancestral foods out of the human diet and replace them with manufactured substitutes. And I'll tell you, nothing has been more misunderstood, more unfairly demonized, and more desperately needed by the aging heart than what I'm going to share with you today. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why your heart is struggling, what it actually needs to recover, and how one simple drink, prepared the way your grandmother prepared it, can change the way your chest feels when you wake up tomorrow morning. Now, before we go any further, if you're over 70 and you've ever felt that heaviness I just described, I want you to do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now, because everything on this channel is built for you. And drop a comment below telling me, do you remember what your grandparents drank in the morning? Was it milk straight from the cow? Was it buttermilk? Was it something else entirely? I want to hear your memory, because those memories are medicine too. Let me explain what's actually happening inside your chest, because your doctor probably hasn't had time to sit down and walk you through this. After the age of about 65, your heart muscle starts to stiffen, not because it's diseased, not because it's broken, but because it's losing something. The mitochondria inside your heart cells, those tiny engines that produce the energy your heart needs to pump 60 to 100 times a minute of every day, those mitochondria start to slow down. They get damaged by oxidative stress. They lose their membrane integrity, and when that happens, your heart doesn't get the fuel it needs. It's like trying to run a tractor on half a tank of bad diesel. The engine still turns over, but it labors. It knocks. It doesn't have the power it used to. Cardiologists call this diastolic dysfunction. Your heart can still squeeze, but it can't relax properly between beats. And that's why you feel the heaviness. That's why you get winded walking to the mailbox. Your heart isn't weak. It's energy depleted. It's starving for specific nutrients that used to be abundant in the American diet and have been systematically removed over the last 6 decades. And the number one source of those nutrients, the single richest delivery system nature ever designed for the aging heart, was raw, full-fat, grass-fed milk and its fermented byproducts. The very thing they told you to stop drinking. Now, I'm not here to bash your cardiologist. Your cardiologist saves lives every single day, and if you need a stent or a bypass, thank God for modern medicine. But here's what happens in a 12-minute cardiology appointment. They check your blood pressure, they look at your labs, they adjust your statin, and they say keep your saturated fat low. What they don't have time to explain is that the saturated fat in grass-fed dairy is not the same molecule as the saturated fat in a fast food cheeseburger. They don't have time to explain that full-fat dairy from pastured animals contains a specific fatty acid called conjugated linoleic acid, CLA, that has been shown in study after study to reduce arterial inflammation, improve insulin sensitivity, and actually protect the endothelial lining of your blood vessels. They don't have time to explain that the calcium in whole milk is bound to proteins and fats in a matrix that your body absorbs completely differently than the calcium in a supplement pill. And they certainly don't have time to tell you about vitamin K2, the single most important vitamin for your cardiovascular system that almost nobody over 70 is getting enough of. So let me take you through exactly what your heart needs and how this one ancestral drink delivers it. And I want you to pay close attention to number 4, because it contains a mistake that almost everyone makes, and getting it wrong can actually make things worse. The first thing your heart is starving for is vitamin K2, specifically the MK4 and MK7 forms. Now you've heard of vitamin K. You probably associate it with blood clotting, and that's vitamin K1, which comes from green vegetables. But vitamin K2 is a completely different animal. Vitamin K2 is the traffic cop of calcium in your body. It takes calcium out of your arteries, where it causes deadly plaque, and it escorts that calcium into your bones and teeth, where it belongs. Without enough K2, calcium just accumulates in the wrong places. Your arteries get hard and calcified while your bones get soft and brittle. It's the great calcium paradox, and it's happening in almost every person over 70 in America right now. Now here's where the farm drink comes in. In the 1940s and 1950s, when cows grazed on open pasture and ate fresh green grass, their milk was extraordinarily rich in K2. A single glass of full-fat milk from a grass-fed cow contained meaningful amounts of MK4. But even more powerful was what happened when that milk was fermented. When you take raw grass-fed milk and you culture it, the bacteria produce MK7, the long-chain form of K2 that stays in your bloodstream for up to 72 hours. That's why fermented dairy, things like kefir, cultured buttermilk, aged cheese, these were the backbone of heart health in rural America. Grandma didn't know about menaquinone 7. She just knew that Grandpa drank a glass of clabbered milk every night and his heart was strong as a horse until the day he died at 89. A study out of the Netherlands published in the Journal of Nutrition followed over 4,000 people for more than 7 years and found that those with the highest intake of vitamin K2 had a 57% reduction in the risk of dying from heart disease. 57%. That's not a marginal benefit. That's transformational. Here's what I want you to do. Get yourself a good quality grass-fed kefir. Look for one that says whole milk and grass-fed on the label. Drink 8 ounces every single morning with breakfast. If you can find raw milk kefir from a local farm, even better. If you're lactose intolerant, kefir is your best friend because the fermentation process breaks down almost all the lactose. Start with 4 ounces for the first week and work up to 8. The second thing your starving heart needs is conjugated linoleic acid, CLA. This is the fatty acid I mentioned earlier, and I need you to understand something about it that changes everything. CLA is found almost exclusively in the fat of ruminant animals, cows, goats, sheep, animals that eat grass and chew their cud. When a cow eats fresh green pasture, the bacteria in her rumen convert the linoleic acid from the grass into CLA through a process called biohydrogenation. This CLA then concentrates in her milk fat. A glass of whole milk from a pastured cow has 3 to 5 times more CLA than milk from a grain-fed, confined cow. And CLA does something remarkable for your heart. It reduces the oxidation of LDL cholesterol. See, it's not the LDL itself that's dangerous. Your doctor may not have explained this to you. It's oxidized LDL that burrows into your artery walls and triggers the inflammatory cascade that leads to plaque. CLA acts as a fat-soluble antioxidant that protects those LDL particles from oxidizing in the first place. Researchers at the University of Wisconsin found that CLA reduced atherosclerotic lesions in animal models by over 30%, and subsequent human observational studies have consistently associated higher CLA intake with lower cardiovascular risk. Now picture this. It's 1952, early morning on a dairy farm in Wisconsin. The sun isn't up yet. A farmer walks into the barn, sits down on a three-legged stool, and fills a steel pail with warm, foaming milk from a Jersey cow that's been eating clover and ryegrass all summer. That milk is golden, almost yellow, because the beta-carotene from the grass colors the fat. He carries that pail into the kitchen, and his wife pours it through a cloth strainer into a ceramic pitcher. Some of it goes straight into glasses for the children. Some gets set aside to clabber overnight for buttermilk. Every single product from that one pail of milk is loaded with CLA, with K2, with fat-soluble vitamins A, D, and E in their most bioavailable forms. That family wasn't taking supplements. They didn't need to. The farm was the pharmacy. Your practical step here is simple. Switch your butter to grass-fed butter, the kind that's deep yellow, almost orange. Kerrygold is widely available, or find a local farm source. Use 2 tablespoons a day on your vegetables, your toast, your sweet potatoes. That butter is not your enemy. It is concentrated heart medicine from a cow that ate what cows are supposed to eat. The third thing is something I see missing in almost every patient over 70 I've ever worked with, and it's magnesium. Your heart is a muscle. It is the most hard-working muscle in your entire body. It contracts and relaxes over 100,000 times a day, and every single one of those contractions requires magnesium. Without adequate magnesium, your heart muscle can't relax fully between beats. That's called diastolic dysfunction, and it's the #1 heart problem I see in people over 70. It's not a blockage, it's not a valve problem, it's a mineral deficiency masquerading as heart disease. Now, the old farm drink connects here in a way most people don't realize. Raw, unprocessed milk from pastured cows is a significant source of bioavailable magnesium. But even more importantly, when that milk is fermented into kefir or yogurt, the lactic acid produced during fermentation dramatically increases magnesium absorption. A study from the Journal of the American College of Nutrition showed that magnesium absorption from fermented dairy was up to 30% higher than from non-fermented sources. Here's the problem. Modern processed milk has been pasteurized at ultra-high temperatures, homogenized, and stripped of its cream. Each of those processes degrades the magnesium content and destroys the enzymes and beneficial bacteria that help you absorb it. So you could be drinking 3 glasses of supermarket skim milk a day and still be magnesium deficient. Your grandparents, drinking 1 glass of fresh whole milk from the barn, were getting more usable magnesium than you get from a whole gallon of the modern stuff. I recommend supplementing with magnesium glycinate, 300 milligrams, taken at night before bed. But also get your dairy-based magnesium by choosing fermented, full-fat, grass-fed dairy products. The combination of supplemental and food-based magnesium is what I've seen produce the best results in my practice. Now, number 4 is where I need you to really lean in, because this is the one almost everyone gets wrong, and I promised I'd explain why. The 4th nutrient your aging heart is desperate for is omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA. And you're probably thinking, I know about omega-3s, I take fish oil. But here's the mistake. Most people over 70 are taking a fish oil capsule that's been sitting on a shelf for months, and the oil inside has gone rancid. Oxidized fish oil doesn't help your heart. It actually increases oxidative stress. A study published in the Journal of Nutritional Science tested over-the-counter fish oil supplements and found that a significant percentage exceeded acceptable oxidation limits. You're swallowing a capsule thinking you're protecting your heart, and you might be doing the opposite. So what does this have to do with the farm drink? Well, here's something almost nobody knows. Milk from grass-fed cows contains a meaningful omega-3 to omega-6 ratio that's close to 1:1. Milk from grain-fed cows has a ratio closer to 1:6 or worse. That matters enormously because omega-6 fatty acids, when they overwhelm omega-3s, drive inflammation, and inflammation is the engine of heart disease. When your grandparents drank whole milk from a pastured cow, they were getting a naturally anti-inflammatory food. Every glass was gently modulating their inflammatory markers without them knowing it. The modern equivalent, conventional milk from a grain-fed cow in a confinement operation, has had its fatty acid profile completely distorted. Same white liquid, completely different medicine. For your omega-3s, here's what I want you to do. Instead of those shelf-stable capsules, get a high-quality liquid fish oil that you keep in the refrigerator. Nordic Naturals or Carlson's are reliable brands. Take 1 teaspoon a day, about 1,500 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA, with your morning kefir. The fat in the kefir actually improves omega-3 absorption, and the combination of the anti-inflammatory omega-3s with the anti-inflammatory CLA in the kefir creates what I call a synergistic anti-inflammatory effect that neither one achieves alone. The fifth thing your heart is craving may surprise you, and it's cholesterol itself. I know that sounds like heresy after decades of being told that cholesterol is the villain, but listen to me carefully. Your brain is 60% fat by dry weight. Your cell membranes are made of cholesterol. Every steroid hormone in your body, including the ones that regulate your heartbeat and your stress response, is manufactured from cholesterol. And after 70, your body's ability to produce its own cholesterol declines. Multiple studies, including a large analysis published in The Lancet, have shown that in people over 70, higher total cholesterol is actually associated with lower all-cause mortality. Let me say that again. In people your age, having moderately higher cholesterol is associated with living longer, not shorter. Now, I am not telling you to ignore your doctor or stop your medication. What I am telling you is that the dietary cholesterol in a glass of whole milk, in a farm-fresh egg, in a pat of grass-fed butter, is not the thing that's going to kill you. It may be the thing that saves your brain, your hormones, and your heart cell membranes from deteriorating. Your grandparents didn't count cholesterol. They ate eggs from the hen house, cream from the barn, and liver once a week. And the rates of Alzheimer's and heart failure in farming communities in the 1950s were a fraction of what they are today. I want you to stop being afraid of the yolk. Eat 2 to 3 whole eggs from pasture-raised chickens every morning alongside your kefir. The choline in those yolks works with the K2 in your kefir to keep calcium in your bones and out of your arteries. It's a partnership that nature designed, and we broke it when we started throwing the yolk away. The sixth nutrient is one that barely anyone talks about, and it's called butyrate. Butyrate is a short-chain fatty acid that your gut bacteria produce when they ferment fiber. But here's the connection to the farm drink that blew my mind when I first learned it. Butter, real grass-fed butter, is one of the only dietary sources of preformed butyrate. The word butyrate literally comes from the Latin word for butter, butyrum. When you eat grass-fed butter, you are delivering butyrate directly to your intestinal lining, where it does 2 critical things for your heart. First, it strengthens the gut barrier. A leaky gut allows bacterial toxins called lipopolysaccharides, LPS, to enter your bloodstream, and LPS is one of the most potent triggers of arterial inflammation known to science. Second, butyrate has direct anti-inflammatory effects on your blood vessels. Researchers at the Cleveland Clinic have identified the gut-heart axis as one of the most important frontiers in cardiovascular medicine, and butyrate is right at the center of it. Think about that farm kitchen again. Grandma made everything with butter. She fried eggs in butter, she put butter on bread, she stirred butter into oatmeal, she basted the roast with butter. She wasn't trying to be healthy. She was just cooking the way her mother taught her. But every pat of that golden butter was sealing her gut lining, calming the inflammation in her arteries, and feeding the beneficial bacteria that protected her heart. 2 tablespoons of grass-fed butter a day, on your vegetables, in your morning coffee, melted over your oatmeal. Don't fear it. Your gut and your heart are waiting for it. Number 7 is where the old farm drink becomes something almost magical, and it's the probiotic content of naturally fermented dairy. Now, I'm not talking about the yogurt you buy at the supermarket with 14 grams of sugar and a cartoon character on the label. I'm talking about real, traditionally fermented milk. Kefir, clabbered milk, cultured buttermilk. the kind your grandmother set on the back of the counter and let sit overnight until it thickened and got tangy. That process of natural fermentation produces dozens of strains of beneficial bacteria and yeasts that modern probiotic supplements can't replicate. A single cup of authentic kefir contains up to 61 different strains of microorganisms. The best probiotic supplement on the market might contain 15, and those organisms do something specific for your heart that's only been understood in the last 10 years. They metabolize a compound called TMAO, trimethylamine N oxide, which is produced when you eat certain foods and is strongly associated with cardiovascular events, heart attacks, strokes, sudden cardiac death. The bacteria in fermented dairy help break down the precursors to TMAO before they can be converted into this dangerous molecule. A study from the European Heart Journal found that higher fermented dairy consumption was associated with lower TMAO levels and reduced cardiovascular risk. Your grandmother's clabbered milk was doing advanced cardiometabolic medicine, and she just thought it tasted good with cornbread. If you can find traditionally made kefir, drink a cup a day. If you want to make your own, it's remarkably simple. Get kefir grains from a health food store or online. Put them in a jar of whole grass-fed milk. Leave it on the counter for 24 hours. Strain out the grains and drink what's left. Those grains are alive and they'll last you years if you take care of them. The eighth thing your heart needs, and this is one I feel very strongly about, is fat-soluble vitamin A in its true retinol form, not beta-carotene from carrots. Retinol, the preformed vitamin A that comes exclusively from animal sources. Retinol is essential for the health of the endothelium, the thin layer of cells that lines every blood vessel in your body. When your endothelium is damaged, that's where plaque begins to form. Retinol helps regenerate those cells. And guess where retinol concentrates in nature? In the fat of grass-fed dairy, in the cream, in the butter, and most of all, in liver. 1 glass of whole milk from a pastured cow provides retinol in a naturally emulsified, easily absorbed form. The beta-carotene in carrots has to be converted to retinol by your liver, and that conversion becomes dramatically less efficient as you age. By 70, you may be converting less than 5% of the beta-carotene you eat into usable vitamin A. Drink your whole milk. Eat your butter. And once a week, if you can manage it, eat 3 to 4 ounces of pasture-raised chicken liver or beef liver. Sauté it with onions and butter, and I promise you, it doesn't taste like what you remember from the school cafeteria. I want to tell you about someone. Her name is Dorothy. She's 74 years old, retired school teacher from a small town in Ohio. When Dorothy came to see a nutritional counselor 2 years ago, she was on 3 heart medications. She had diastolic dysfunction, her ejection fraction was borderline, and she was so tired by 2 in the afternoon that she'd fall asleep in her chair watching television. She couldn't walk to the end of her driveway without stopping to catch her breath. Her diet was what her cardiologist had told her: skim milk, egg whites, margarine, whole grain cereal, low-fat everything, and she was getting worse every year. The counselor didn't tell Dorothy to stop her medications. That would be irresponsible. What she did was add things back in. She started Dorothy on a cup of grass-fed kefir every morning, 2 pasture-raised eggs with the yolk, cooked in grass-fed butter, a teaspoon of refrigerated fish oil stirred into the kefir, 300 milligrams of magnesium glycinate at night, and once a week, a small portion of chicken liver, pâté on sourdough toast. Within 6 weeks, Dorothy told the counselor that the heaviness in her chest was lighter. Within 3 months, she was walking a full mile around her neighborhood without stopping. Her doctor rechecked her labs, and her inflammatory markers had dropped significantly. Her cardiologist was surprised enough to ask her what she'd changed, and when she told him she'd started eating butter and whole eggs and drinking kefir, he didn't scold her. He said, and I love this, he said, "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. That's not a miracle. That's what happens when you stop starving the heart and start feeding it what it was designed to run on." Dorothy didn't cure herself. She's still on medication, though her doctor has reduced one of them. What she did was give her heart the raw materials it needed to do its job, and her heart responded the way hearts do when they finally get what they've been missing. Now, I need to say something important here, and I want you to take this seriously. If you are currently taking blood-thinning medications like warfarin or Coumadin, the vitamin K2 in fermented dairy can interact with those medications. Vitamin K2 affects clotting, and changing your intake suddenly could throw off your INR levels. This doesn't mean you can't enjoy these foods. It means you need to talk to your doctor before you start, and any changes need to be gradual so your doctor can adjust your medication accordingly. The same goes if you're on statins. Adding these nutrient-dense foods may change your lipid panel, and your doctor should be aware and monitoring. If you're on diabetes medications, especially insulin, the improved insulin sensitivity from CLA and the blood sugar stabilizing effects of full-fat dairy could potentially lower your glucose levels more than expected. That's a good thing, but it needs to be managed. Never, ever adjust your medications on your own based on a YouTube video. Take this information to your doctor and work together. That partnership between ancestral wisdom and modern medicine is where the real magic happens. Here's what I want you to take away from everything we've talked about today. Every single nutrient I mentioned, the K2, the CLA, the magnesium, the omega-3s, the cholesterol, the butyrate, the probiotics, the retinol, they all came from one place in your grandparents' world. They all came from the milk of a grass-fed cow and the products made from that milk. One animal, one food, 8 critical heart nutrients. That's not a coincidence. That's millions of years of coevolution between humans and ruminant animals. We drank their milk, we churned their butter, we fermented their cream, and our hearts thrived. Then, starting in the 1960s, we were told to stop, replace butter with margarine, replace whole milk with skim, replace egg yolks with egg whites, replace real food with supplements. And in those 60 years, rates of heart failure, diastolic dysfunction, and cardiovascular death in people over 70 have skyrocketed. The solution was never in a pill bottle. It was in a milk pail. Here's your plan. Starting tomorrow morning, do these 4 things. First, get a carton of grass-fed whole milk kefir and drink 8 ounces with breakfast. Second, cook 2 pasture-raised eggs in a tablespoon of grass-fed butter. Third, take a teaspoon of refrigerated liquid fish oil with that meal. Fourth, take 300 milligrams of magnesium glycinate before bed tonight. Do those 4 things every day for 30 days and then tell me how your chest feels in the morning. Tell me if that heaviness has changed. Tell me if you can walk a little farther before you need to stop. In my next video, I'm going to show you the 5 warning signs that your heart is losing magnesium faster than you can replace it, and why the blood test your doctor runs almost never catches it until it's too late. There's a different test you can ask for that gives you the real number, and almost no one knows about it. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that one, because it could change everything your doctor tells you at your next appointment. I'll see you there.